This officer can explain it to you, okay? But you're under arrest.
Please don't do this. My parents are going to be so mad.
Okay.
Please.
Here you go. Here's her bong and her grinder. My business card is in her car. Here is a ID that does not belong to her.
Drinking and driving, a strict prohibition. Picture this, a young college student, the night, and a fast car. Can you sense the trouble? Well, today, you'll witness what happens when underage college student makes some really bad choices. But before we dive into this wild tale, do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Have you ever witnessed a red light runner? Now, you will. In the dark and early hours of Saturday, February 6, 2021, in sunny Florida. It was 3:32 a.m., and Officer Greg Nelson, a dedicated member of the Orange County Police Station, was on duty. He was patrolling the streets when suddenly he spotted a black Mercedes racing through the city. And the driver didn't just speed through a red light. The car made a daring left turn, without a care in the world. And when it decided to make a right turn, it careened out of control and smashed right into the curb in a 60 miles per hour. Officer Nelson, determined to get to the bottom of this reckless situation, approached the vehicle with caution. To his shock, behind the wheel sat a mere 19-year-old, clearly intoxicated beyond reason. Yes, an underage college student, barely old enough to vote, is now facing some serious consequences for her reckless actions.
Please don't do this. My parents are going to be so mad.
Okay.
Please.
But what happened next? When Officer Nelson questioned her behind the wheel, she dropped a bombshell. She didn't even have a driver's license. Can you believe that? As the officer looked closer, he noticed a yellow band wrapped around her right wrist. Now, you might be wondering, what's the big deal with a yellow band? Well, it's the kind they hand out at bars and clubs to show you're old enough to enjoy a sip of the good stuff. You know, over 21. This young college student, who claimed she couldn't legally drive, was sporting a band that's basically a neon sign screaming, "I'm of drinking age." Normally, you'd think that teens who want to get into bars and clubs use fake IDs, right? Well, yes, either they find someone with access to these IDs or borrow an ID from an older friend to sneak their way in and pretend to be older than they actually are. Well, guess what? This girl here is about to confess something just like that.
We can still go in there if we don't have... It's just they access. We like...
Gotcha. Well, you have a wristband on. So you must...
Somehow we know people.
Somehow you know people? Not that you have a fake ID or anything?
While Officer Nelson continued talking to her, something else caught his attention. A powerful smell of alcohol from inside the car. Now you might be thinking, could this situation get any worse? Well, it does.
I drank at the beginning of the night, and then I literally Ubered home from downtown, and I drove from University House.
Okay. What did you drink while you were there?
A vodka cran.
A vodka cream. How big was it?
Just a regular.
She admitted that she had just come from downtown. It's clear she's not exactly on her way home from a late-night party. And when she was asked a critical question, how much did she drink? She casually responded, just one vodka and cranberry. Wait a minute. A single vodka and cranberry might be a light choice for some, but when you're underage and behind the wheel, it's a recipe for disaster. Then things took a more serious turn. The officer, with a stern expression, asked her to step out of the car for further questioning.
Go ahead and step out of the vehicle for me.
Yeah. I'm just not wearing shoes, but yeah.
Okay.
Can you call me real quick?
He wanted to get to the bottom without missing any detail. The officers knew they had to handle this delicate situation carefully, so they made sure that she felt comfortable and safe. After that, they asked if she would be willing to take part in field sobriety exercises. Surprisingly, she agreed.
Some other field sobriety exercises with me?
Sure.
Okay. I'm going to have you face this way, so look at me.
Now, field sobriety exercises are like a series of tests to check if someone's had a bit too much to drink. He asked her to stand straight, you know, the classic sobriety test. And the gadget in the officer's hand, it's called a stimulus. It has to position between 12 and 15 inches away from the person's nose, just a bit above eye level. Why, you ask? Well, it's a trick to get the person's eyes to open wider, making it easier for the officer to keep a close watch on those pupils. Despite being told numerous times to follow instructions carefully, she started before Officer Nelson even gave the green light. When he finally got her on track and asked if she understood the instructions, she confidently said she did. However, the actual exercise told a different story. Throughout the whole ordeal, she swayed like a pendulum, left, right, front, back. Just 24 seconds in, she decided she'd had enough and put her foot down. Now, if you've ever seen those sobriety tests on TV, you know that's not a good sign. This girl is totally drunk, I must say. After completing the exercise, you'll notice she did not count her steps out loud. Plus, she messed up the steps right from the get-go. On her way down, she missed the heel-to-toe connection on steps 1, 2, and 3. But wait, it gets even more confusing. On the way back, she took a total of 10 steps, but she missed counting steps, and to top it off, she somehow managed to take 11 steps instead of the required 9.
So whichever foot you raise, whether it's your left or your right, you're going to watch that elevated toe, okay? All right, just give me a second. All right, remember, you got to stay in that position, okay? All right, you can begin.
You can hear the officer's voice during this whole performance, a mix of disbelief and probably a bit of amusement. So, according to the exercises she performed, the officer is sure that she's not just claiming she can't drive, she's actually driving under the influence. Given the clear signs of intoxication, the officer had no choice but to arrest her.
I believe that you are intoxicated.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Please
Okay,
don't do
stop
this.
moving, stop moving. Okay, I think you're
Please.
intoxicated to the point that you will not safe to operate a motor vehicle.
Please don't do this. I will literally.
Don't.
Okay,
It's
stop
too late.
moving.
Look at the shock on her face. Even in the stimulus test, they found a lack of smooth pursuit in both of her eyes. He also spotted nystagmus, which means rapidly moving of eyes from side to side, up and down, or even in circles without you wanting them to. Well, this condition can make your vision a bit blurry, which is not ideal, especially when you're behind the wheel. This is exactly what police notice and record if anyone is drunk. So, what happened next? She is taken to the Orange County DUI Center. Now let's talk about the bigger picture here. In an ideal world, teenagers would patiently wait until they hit that legal age to sip of alcohol, and they'd never even think about getting behind the wheel after drinking. But as we all know, the real world isn't always ideal. It tends to make teens do things they shouldn't, and unfortunately, that includes driving under the influence. Shockingly, even though drivers under 21 make up just around 10% of all licensed drivers, they're responsible for a whopping 17% of fatal alcohol-related crashes. Moreover, over 2,000 underage drivers lose their lives in alcohol-related crashes every single year. That's a staggering number, and it gets worse. Teenage drunk driving claims the lives of up to 7 teenagers every day in the United States. And it's a harsh reality, and incidents like the one we're witnessing here are just the tip of the iceberg. Officer Nelson couldn't believe his eyes when, somehow, this young woman managed to slip out of her handcuffs. The officers then decided to give her car a thorough search once over, just to see if anything else unusual was lurking inside. And, man, they hit the jackpot.
What's it?
My business card is in her car. Here is a ID that does not belong to her.
They stumbled upon a stash of drugs, an officer's business card, and to top it all off, her very own fake ID. The officer, trying to make sense of this bizarre situation, asked her if there was anyone who could come to the station and pick her up. But she kept on denying that she had been drinking, even with all the evidence pointing in the opposite direction. Now she's been taken to the breathalyzer test. At this point, it seems she's accepted the reality of the situation and willingly agrees to take the test. Now let's break down what this means. You see, in Florida, minors with a blood alcohol concentration of 0.02% or higher can land themselves in serious trouble, DUI trouble to be exact. For a first offense, it's a 6-month suspension of that precious driver's license, as well as mandatory evaluation at an addictions facility or completion of an alcohol education program. After the officer had her do a breath test, the truth is revealed. At around 5:01 a.m., the girl blew into the breathalyzer, and the results: her blood alcohol level was a staggering 0.094%. Just 3 minutes later, at approximately 5:04 a.m., she took another breath test, and the results were almost identical, showing 0.095%. Now, because of her reckless actions, she found herself facing 2 citations. The first was for running that red light like it was a suggestion, and the second, well, it was a DUI citation, driving under the influence. So if you've enjoyed the drunken scene, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more jaw-dropping tales. We've got plenty more crime scenes waiting for you.